So today we're going to try to replace a worn belt on a Swisher 44-inch mower. It's a trim mower. I've had it about 7 years, and the belt's pretty well worn. I don't use it a lot. I use it a little bit to trim my food plots seasonally. A couple of other things around the pond. And the old belt is still on and intact, which is helpful as far as getting your routing done correctly. So this is looking from the front side, the pull side, and you can see this is a one blade drive pulley here. The belt feeds, if you see it, it feeds underneath. It goes around an idler pulley, which you see kind of in the middle there. Let's see if I can get a little daylight in there. There. Around that, and then back around the drive pulley from the motor shaft. We'll switch to the other side so we can get a better look. And so now we're coming off the motor drive. You can see how it kind of back loops around the idler pulley right there in the middle. There's the motor drive, comes back over to the other side blade drive pulley, and back inside, that's, well, actually that's your that's a tensioner in there as well. That idler pulley in the middle acts as a tensioner, and that's what engages and disengages the blade drives when you want to do your mowing. I'm going to try to get this off without removing the motor or anything like that. I think there's enough space under there to feed the belt through and get it to go. So that's what we're going to try. First thing I have to do, there's a retention pin, I guess you would call it, or a bolt next to this pulley. And there wasn't enough room to get the pulley out, which is good because that's what it's supposed to do, is hold the pulley or hold the belt in place. Not enough room to get the belt out, I should have said. So I've loosened this. This is a 7/16 nut on this pin. Give it a little bit of wiggle room, and I'm going to try to pull the belt up by that and then work it back out kind of in the reverse order that I'll be installing the new belt. So I've just got two hands, no tripods or anything here. So let me get that out and then we'll pick it back up. So once you loosen that 7/16 nut enough, you can push this pin down, and that'll give you clearance to lift the belt off of that blade drive pulley right there. Then we'll go to the other side and see if we can get things kind of pulled back out in reverse order. Maybe I can set the camera up here and keep it in place. It doesn't look like it. I'll keep you updated. Okay, so now that it's removed from the pulley on the other side, should just be able to pull that back through. Let's see, we're hanging on. There's another bolt stud. Let's see if I can get to that. Right there. Lift it up and over. Go back. And that should come on back out like that. This is going to give us an idea of how the belt needs to go back in. So both sides are going to have to go under that tensioner rod and spring, feed up into here and make a little loop around the motor drive pulley. Hard to see, I know. And then come back do a U-turn, kind of a placing the back side of the belt against that tensioner idler right there. So let's see if we can get that done. So we're gonna have to go, well, that's interesting. Here we've got a break. So actually we're gonna have to come up and over that, which means now we're one side above and one side below the tensioner rod. So it looks like we're going to have to disconnect the tensioner rod from one end to the other just to get the belt around it. So let me do that. Okay, I haven't removed the tensioner yet, but I wanted to show you. And it seems like, let me back out a little bit. Seems like we've got our friends the engineers, you know how they are. They didn't give us enough clearance through the bottom of the motor drive pulley to the top surface of the deck to get a belt through it, at least as far as I can tell so far. So we're going to have to loosen the motor mounts at least in the back and probably in the front too, and lift the motor up just a bit so that we can get under that. It's hard to see, but we need to get the belt under this space right here below the bottom flange of that motor drive pulley. I'll try it once more, but I don't think it's going to come out without raising the motor just a bit. So we've removed one rear motor mount bolt and we're taking the other one off, but I wanted to show you it's a half-inch wrench, half-inch head bolt, half-inch head nut. I've already loosened it, but the nut is a, sorry about that. The nut is serrated so that it'll hold from the inside back in here while you tighten from the outside, and the same thing for loosen. Of course, once it gets just loose enough, you have to reach in there and hold it to get the bolt out, like that. So there are two bolts out. I'll see if I got enough flex to lift up here. I may have to loosen the front mounts as well. A little bit more of a pain because that also involves the swing arm. A nice addition, if you got one of these, I added that caster to the front to keep the front from digging in. If I'm mowing up and down pond bank using my ATV winch, it would keep trying to dig in, and with that caster it'll just ride along and come on up the bank and go back down without getting hung up. So some of you might want to consider. The other thing I did while we're at it, I took the bolt out of that position that locks the swing arm in place and replaced it with a pin that has a ball detent on it, and that just makes it a lot easier to lift the pin out, swing the arm around, put it where you want it, set your angle, pop it back in. All right, let's see what we can do with this and I'll get back. Okay, that was pretty easy. All I did, I had this about a 1-inch wooden dowel with the rear motor mounts bolts removed. I just pried up. As you can see, it's coming up just enough. It didn't take much, maybe, what is that, 1/2 inch, 3/4, and the belt just slipped right off of the motor drive pulley, and it's out free and clear, except for that tensioner adjuster, which we'll have to navigate that. With the tensioner removed, the belt just pops right out. That was the last thing holding it. So now we'll go reverse order and try to get the new belt on. As you can see, it's a D&D Power drive. What is that? 4LK740, half by 74. Parentheses AK72. I hope it's not, means it's 2 inches short. We'll see. That came from Amazon. It's like $25, something like that. I'll see if I can find a link and put it in the description. Pried it up again. Had to pull this out just a little bit to get it tucked behind that end of the tensioner. So this side is now ready to go back, all the way back to the other side and catch the opposite side drive. It's in my dowel, which I don't need anymore. So we'll go ahead and remove that. Just kind of feed it back to where we can get it from the other side. Step around there. So here we are on the other side. Sorry, it's a little dark there. There we go. Pull it back and wrap this pulley like so. We want to go inside this guide pin, and then I'll need both hands, but I'm going to bring that other guide pin back up and in position and lock it back down with my 7/16. I believe we're going to have to go inside this one as well, and that should be, go look at the other side. And now we'll wrap, see if we can go under that tensioner. We'll wrap this pulley like that. I'll go back and get that other pin in place, and we'll test everything, make sure we're on the right side of the guides. This one I'm not sure, I'll have to check. It may go like that, I'm not sure. I'll make sure we don't get any rubbing when it's in the rub position. I think that may have to go like that. I'll let you know. So I pulled that pin back up in position and tightened it for the most part. Must have some sort of a serrated or maybe a carriage head or something on the bottom, I'm not sure, but it holds itself. You don't have to get under the deck with another wrench to hold it, which is nice. And we'll just snug that up. Don't over tighten it, you know how that goes. Now I'll show you. The belt did fit, it was a great fit. Looks like it's going to work fine. Hopefully it'll last at least another 5 to 7 years. Might outlast me at that point. The tensioner was a little bit slack, so I adjusted it so that it's snug, but there's, as you can see, there's a tiny amount of free play in it. The spring isn't tensed at all. The belt will ride free. The blades shouldn't spin when we're not wanting them to, out of gear. But as soon as we start putting tension on that, nice and tight, tight here, and hopefully, you know, as long as you don't hit a stump or a stick or a rock or something like that to get it in a full bind, it should chew right through tall, thick stuff. Before I button this up, I'll give you one more tip about these mowers. A little issue I ran into a couple of times when mowing rough terrain, steep hills. I probably should have got the rough cut, but it's mixed use and I use it wherever I can get it. This safety switch right here won't let you start the mower. As you can see, there's a plunger back here. Won't let you start the mower if the blade is engaged. Once your blade is engaged, now the plunger is released, so that closes that circuit, takes the ground off the ignition, and lets you start the mower. Learned the hard way a couple of times that that piece will work its way loose while you're mowing, especially in rough stuff. And if it does that, you think you're out of gas, you think the thing, you know, something got into the throttle control, whatever. And you'll pull it till you'll darn near die of a heart attack trying to get it to restart, and it won't. Pull that cover off that goes there and take a look, make sure that that switch is in place. You could bypass it. I wouldn't recommend it, because you sure as heck don't want to try to start these things with the blade engaged. What I did was actually bent these tabs on the switch side just a little bit to give them a little bit more resistance, to make that thing hold better. Haven't had any issues with it in the last 2 years. It's just something to look out for. And briefly, I'll show you my mechanism, the pin. As you can see, you don't have to deal with a bolt. You just lift that out. Another place that caster on the front comes in handy. Swing it around to the angle you want. Line up your hole and pop your pin back in, and you're ready to go. You see it's got that small detent. I believe I bought those on Amazon. If I can find it, I'll put a link in the description for those as well. One more afterthought. I do have a manual. You can get one from Swisher's website. I just checked recently. But this shows your belt routing pretty clearly. This pulley here is the one that's attached to the drive shaft on the motor. That's the one that we had trouble. Had to lift it up just a bit, loosen it up, and get it to pull back under there. As you can see, we are inside of this guide pin. Wraps this pulley, goes all the way over to the other side, comes back to the idler pulley. But the way you want to install it is the way I did. You feed this loop, raise the motor up just a bit, feed that loop underneath, and then pull it back, feed it back over, and then loop back here. There's a better look at the old belt. I would say it was time. Thanks for watching.